Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.
Welcome again to Street Talk. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki, and on Street Talk, what we do, we talk about the things that happen in Michigan, the U.S., and abroad. Now, joining me tonight is two of my good friends, Mr. Charles Thomas.
How you doing?
Mr. Dennis Burnside.
What's up, man?
We've got a lot to cover, so let's get started. But the first thing I want to talk about is Flint, Michigan. Now, we got a governor who a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago or something like that, a little whisper like, well, we're going to run him as a Democratic president. I mean, as a Republican president, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like a little talk going around. But everywhere you look at, he's messed up. In fact, signing bills that nobody's read anything, but he just, he's just signing them. Now let's go with Flint first. What about this Flint thing?
Well,
when did he supposed to know about it?
The reason why he was being whispered as a viable candidate for the Republican Party was because he had done something that their wet dream called for, and that's completely disenfranchising the black vote.
Okay.
He took the democratically elected government and rights away from predominantly black cities all over the state.
Okay.
He started with Benton Harbor, Michigan, which is the town I was born in and most of my family lived in as I grew up. They had a park there called Gene Clark Park.
Okay.
Had been granted to the city of Benton Harbor in perpetuity. Now, Chuck, I don't know about you, but where I grew up, perpetuity meant forever. They granted this park, which is a park I used to enjoy as a teenager. That was the teenage hangout spot. We used to go there in our cars and play our Rick James and dance with the girls on the beach and throw footballs. It was fun. And it was predominantly black. They took this piece of property, sold it off to insiders for pennies on the dollar, and now what you have there is a Jack Nicklaus golf course and multi-hundred thousands, if not million-dollar homes there, that if somebody from Benton Harbor tried to get in there now, they'd arrest them. That was his first shot across the bow. From there, he went to Detroit, took over Detroit Public Schools, Flint, Saginaw, Ecorse. You can go through these cities that the Republican Party essentially said, you can't afford to be in the democratic process because we've taken away the economic base that bolsters your city by telling the corporations and the wealthy they don't have to pay taxes. We've shipped all your jobs overseas. We've leached the community of its wherewithal to stand on its own 2 feet. And as a result of that, and you falling into debt, we're now telling you, you can't have a school board. You can't have a city council.
Right.
You can't elect a mayor who's effective. We're going to control all that. So everything that we see happening in Flint derives from that initial emergency manager law, which, by the way, was voted down by the people of the state of Michigan. And Snyder's response to that was to write an even more egregious bill, which included wording that made it impossible for this law to be recalled. So this is all the effort of a fascist, right-wing, authoritarian streak, which is all the Republicans are
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
in action. And this is what you see. Them not giving a damn about the predicted outcome of what they did with the water system there and how it poisoned the people. It's all predicted.
Right. And the thing, Charles, is that he keeps changing. He keeps changing, saying, "Well, I didn't know about it until then." But if you're the captain of the ship,
Yeah. It's your responsibility.
Yeah.
If you didn't know, that's your fault. You set everything up.
yeah,
So that's no excuse.
right.
But I was listening to Dennis, and he made a very valid point as to what's happening in front of our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And then what is it going to take to wake the black community up?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, they're not hiding anything.
Right. Right.
They doing this right in front of you.
Oh yeah.
So what
Yeah.
is it going to take for us to do something for ourselves?
Well, one of the things that I got pretty irritated. Let's see, Sunday and another day. I get the paper every Sunday, but I'll get it once in a while during the week. And but I know I got it Sunday and I got it the other Sunday. But anyway, every time they were talking about the situation in Flint, even a couple times on TV, they would show blacks.
Mm-hmm.
But now, there were whites living in the area too, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because I seen them show one lady said she had been living in the area don't know how long, 20, 25, 30 years. But every time it get in the paper, everything,
Yeah.
they black.
Blackface, yeah.
Yeah, they,
Well, they're trying to imply, and in fact, a couple of his underlings have outright said it, which is a lie, that the city council of Flint voted for this thing 7-1, and that the administration of Flint was the impotence for this whole thing. It's a lie.
mm-hmm.
The decision to make the switch from the Detroit Water Authority to this new one that was going to be predicated on this area, Flint area in east, which is going to source its water from Lake Huron, same as the Detroit water is, was made, and they needed to have some type of agreement in place to bridge between the time that new water table was brought online and what they currently had with the Detroit water system. So you have an emergency manager in Flint, a dictator,
Okay.
negotiating with a dictator, Uncle Tom dictator, in Detroit,
Right.
about the price they're going to pay for the water. They couldn't come to an agreement. So the decision was made to access the Flint River. Now, there are other cities around the country that access old industrial legacy rivers that are heavily polluted, heavy metals, all kind of bacterial pollution, in addition to the risks that it entails just by using this corrosive water.
Okay.
And experience says that when you do that, you have to add chemicals, chlorine, antibiotics, and you have to add an anti-corrosive agent, because otherwise the water's so corrosive it leaches the pipe and it degrades the pipe and they leach heavy metals. Well, the very first sign that you'll ever see when you add river water to community and it's not being treated properly is you'll see brownish red water. Why? Because the first thing it starts leaching is the iron. That's the harbinger.
Yeah.
That's the warning shot.
Yeah.
If it's releasing iron, it's releasing lead.
Yeah.
The state of Michigan was apprised of the red water and the high levels of iron, and something needed to be done. And the fix was, for $150,000, they could have added an anti-corrosion agent to the water right then. And the only damage would have been 4 to 6 weeks of the lead that had already been beginning to release from water. Snyder decided that wasn't a good way to spend money, because he's always, running like a business. If business is about laying off your people and cutting their pay and shipping the jobs
Yeah.
overseas to maximize profits for the shareholders, that was his model.
Yeah.
So they went ahead and kept bringing in this river water, and before long you saw the release of the iron, that you saw fecal matter,
Corrosion, yeah.
and then you saw the release of the lead. Now, had they just treated it, as any humane person would have done when they were warned, look, man, this is iron, which means lead's following,
Yep.
and this, the ramifications is lifetime damage,
Yeah.
especially to the children.
Yeah.
Everyone who's exposed to this, we got to do something about it. A human,
Would have
well,
jumped on-
let's say a person who's
who
humane
had a heart. Yeah.
Yeah.
would have done something about that. What did Snyder and his minions decide to do? Nothing.
Yeah.
They denied that
Yep,
it was a
yep,
problem.
yeah.
They said that the people from Virginia Tech and the doctor, the young pediatrician at Hurley Hospital,
Specialist.
who started documenting the release of the lead in the water and the blood in the lead in the blood of the children. Oh, they were making it up. They're
Yep,
cherry
yep,
picking data.
yep.
They're lying
Yeah.
because they just are that power mad and that greedy. People like that deserve a fair trial, a fair conviction, and a fairly long prison sentence.
That's it.
Yeah.
He ought to be roommates with Kwame Kilpatrick.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
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 What he did was worse than what Kwame did to me.
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Well, Chuck, I don't want to dominate the conversation, but
No.
what he did was murder.
Right.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that iron does, independent of the lead, is iron is a natural nutrition.
Yeah.
Iron attracts bacteria. So one of the warnings was when they saw the iron leach out, they said not only is this a harbinger of lead and other heavy metals being released, but iron is going to cause bacterial growth and we may see a Legionnaires outbreak. Well, what happened?
Hey.
We have a Legionnaires
Yep.
outbreak
Yep.
now and 10 people are dead.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dead.
Yeah. And
Not
somebody-
sick,
Yeah.
dead,
Yeah.
with more.
Yep.
They
Somebody
just
pay for that.
found Legionnaire bacteria at McLaren earlier last week.
Yep.
So we're talking about now something that was easily preventable, was predicted,
Yeah.
was asked to be prevented, and the response was a cavalier, no, we're not going to
Yeah.
do that because
Yeah.
we don't need to do that. The man needs to go to prison for attempted
Yeah,
murder,
yeah.
if not murder.
But
Yeah.
because it happened in the black community, it'll be whitewashed.
Right. And the thing
Well, I
is,
don't know this time. I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
Well-
we can talk about that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
I
another
don't know if
segment.
he can get past this one.
well,
Most times you're right.
Yeah.
but
This time,
I'm kind of like with Chuck, man. I'm waiting to see because I know it'll be 1 or 2 years before we get all everything because now he's appointed yesterday or day before yesterday, appointed the man he appointed to see over this, to see the laws and everything.
Come out of
What-
his pocket.
He donated $10,000
To
to his campaign.
yeah. And the Attorney General who's talking about investing it
Yeah.
ran as a Republican.
Yeah.
That's not where the pressure is going to come from.
He'll get a pardon.
The pressure is coming from D.C.
Well,
The
but
pressure is coming from Hollywood. The pressure is coming from average Joe men and women, many of whom voted for him and will tell you they're Republican. They just, this is a bridge too far. Even for those Archie Bunker, Fox News watching types, they can see this because Flint is predominantly black, but it ain't all black.
No, no,
And
right.
there's a whole lot of cats there who retired from General Motors and other automotive factories who are living there now, and because of the economic crash can't move. They're stuck there.
Yeah.
And then you're going to add injury to insult by poisoning these people.
yeah.
I don't think Snyder's going to be able to glibly just walk away from this one.
I'm hoping he don't, but the Washington D.C. was trying to they was trying to get people from D.C. to look all into it, and the guy Snyder pointed, oh no, I can handle it. I'll be impartial, and it's like he's donated money to this man campaign, but he gonna be impartial? How? So,
But he won't be. But my point is that's not where the buck stops. You can put all the crooks and criminals and sycophants you want to between you and the public to try to be your firewall. Stuff ain't working this time.
Yeah.
So he can set up his boy to do it impartial. Look at this Darnell Early cat. This Uncle Tom goes to Flint, ruins the water system. This is all. Darnell Early was the emergency manager and then an administrator under Snyder. This is a black man
yeah.
who was privy to all this information coming out, and he still
Yep.
shucks and jives and rubs a handkerchief across his head and ducks and says, "Thank you, master," and takes the money.
Is we sick, boss?
Then he carries, then he carries his yes, a boss butt down to Detroit and has ruined the Detroit public schools. The teachers having to sick out there talking about circumstances and conditions that would make a third world country blush. Gym floors that are so buckled that they can't play.
Yep.
Classrooms so cold that the children have to wear hoodies and coats.
Yep.
Hallways so wet and dirty and springing with water that they got mushrooms and dirt growing on the floor. This is all under his auspices because they can't afford proper janitorial and maintenance and repair. Because we just can't afford it. What do you mean we can't afford it? They pay their taxes. You took away their right to vote for the city council and the school board and their mayor, and this is what they get.
That's where the lottery money's coming out of.
Yeah.
Amen. So this one here, I think, is a case of a whole lot of good-doing white folks who vote Republican because they've been convinced that it's all about them pulling themselves up by them bootstraps. And that house they had up north, notice I said had, and that garage they had with the 2 garages and the college fund was all because they worked so hard. Now they're starting to see, no, that was taken from you just like it was given to you because it was given to you because you sweat blood and fought for those rights through a union. And now you let it be taken away. And now you see you really don't have any wherewithal. You don't have any boots to pull up yourself up by these bootstraps. We all need each other. And here's what's next for you. Because they ain't going to stop just poisoning us.
Oh, no.
Pretty soon it's going to be Taylor. It's going to be Grosse Hill. It's going to be those little downriver communities that are broke too. They're next. Because these right-wing fascists don't care so much about what color you are as with that money. They hate black folks, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But they've got this fetish about profits and money that obviates anything that has to do with love and humanity. And so I think because of that, you have a lot of people here who have said, wait a minute now, I can't ride on this one. You're poisoning babies. You're poisoning old folks. You're poisoning my Aunt Martha. I can't go along with you on this one, Gov. You're on your own, bro.
And how far is that effect going to go?
Oh.
Is it a Senate
You extrapolate it, it never stops.
Yeah. Is there going to be a Senate investigation? Or?
Well, the thing is now, see, Snyder's steady trying to shift all the blame, I didn't know about it until then.
But I apologize.
I really apologize. I'm trying to look serious. But one of the things that irritated me, and I was telling Dennis and somebody else about it at the Y, the mayor of Flint, when she was up there with him, and she was talking, well, it's bad, but we got it now. We gonna do it. It's like
Peer.
all of these people been
hoodwinked.
Yeah, but
lied to.
Yeah, but now you and this man here gonna do something about it.
Yeah.
And he's and to himself, I bet he's laughing on the inside. Oh yeah. And she's all serious
Sucking
and everything. Yeah, she's all serious and we got it now. We gonna do something. It's like, how come y'all didn't do something a year or 2 years ago?
Well, it's not on her to do. See, she's ceremonial, so she's got all the power that we have at this table to do something about it. But to your point, she could have spoken in a forthright, strident manner
that's what I'm saying.
about what happened there and whose fault it was on.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed at that same press conference, the pediatrician who was the first one to sound the alarm about the elevated blood levels of lead in these children was at the press conference. And as Snyder's lackey started talking about how there was only 46 people who had tested positive for lead in the entire city, she started shaking her head no. She just kept shaking her head no. And finally that night, all these people started interviewing and said, why were you shaking your head? She said he was being dishonest. He was misleading people. Lead is something that is metabolized quickly. It only stays in your body 4 to 6 weeks. So at any one time since this crisis happened, we could probably find people who with elevated blood levels and then test other people who had even higher levels that have had it dissipate because they metabolized it, and they no longer test positive. That doesn't mean that the damage hasn't already been done, and they're not going to have that damage for the rest of their life. That's the point. So what he did was purposely try to mislead you. And I think that's a position that this mayor was in. She went to a one-on-one meeting with the Snyder, and he said all these nice things, blue skies, rainbows, and ribbons.
I got this.
And so she goes up there and thinking, well, we got some things going. No, honey, no. Don't be duped again.
Right.
Because again, let's start with you getting back the proper power that a mayor should have.
Right, yeah.
Throw this emergency manager crap out the
Yeah,
window,
yeah.
and now let's start talking
Right,
about what needs to be
right.
done. Until then, you're just ceremonial.
Right, and that's what that whole thing just it irritated me, because he's up here and he's steady sliding, back further from it, as he can. Oh, I didn't know it until then, and if I'd have known it, blah blah blah. But look, if you the captain of the ship,
Yeah.
No, the dictator of the ship.
yeah,
There's 3 entities that are reported to him. That's it.
yeah,
No city council, no mayor, no people.
yeah.
We the people, the voters, the electorate, they
No
get to decide on that.
constituents.
They had all of their rights taken away by a dictator, by an autocratic fascist who decided that I know what's good for you. I don't know if you guys saw this, and to me it's tangentially connected to what we're talking about now. They had an article in the New York Times last week that talked about the people who vote for Republicans in this modern iteration since 2000, since Shrub came in.
Yeah.
The people who vote for them, and it doesn't matter if you're black or white, doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, it does not matter what your economic level is. In order for you to unabashedly, enthusiastically support these SOBs, you have to have the streak within you that loves authoritarianism. You want to be obedient. You want to be well-mannered. You don't want to ask too many questions. You want to do what you're told. Those people who carry those streaks within them, they can be poor as a church mouse, and they're going to vote for the Republicans because they see in them the strength, and somebody's going to take charge.
That
and protect
dogma.
them. They're the
Yeah,
ones who walk around talking about, ooh, ISIS.
Yeah.
Oh, it ain't ISIS this week? Oh, Al-Qaeda. Oh, it ain't Al-Qaeda this week?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're always running around afraid.
Yeah.
You know, ain't got the heart that God gave a mouse.
I want
Yeah.
my country back.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
That's the people who vote for them.
Yeah.
So they see this as, hey, chumps, come on, I'm gonna protect you
Yeah.
from some whatever.
Yeah.
And in the meanwhile, I'm gonna steal and clean
rob.
this out, and I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take the bank.
Yeah.
What do you see probably in the next year, say a year from now, or maybe a year and a half from now, because it's so messy right now, and I watch the news, I listen to the news, and I really, man, I don't know what to think about the people in Flint, man. What's happening to them, and what they can do now.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's so much distrust and so much fear up in Flint, and there's such a level of ignorance, among the constituents
Right.
up in Flint that, and everybody's on, to me, handout because of the economical situation
Right.
up there, that they're gonna eat out of anybody's hand that'll get them anything, and that's where politicians want you at.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they're going to be victimized, and as long as they put up with it, they'll get whatever crumbs fall off the Republicans' table.
Do you? I was watching the news day before yesterday. They said 86% of the people, and I didn't get where, but they were saying, and I don't remember where, if they, said some certain name, but they said 86% of the people, and I don't know where the people were, but they said 86% of them wanted Snyder to step down.
Well, that speaks to what I was saying earlier. The polls are coming out against him ferociously, even among his base, even among the working class and middle class whites. They've turned on Snyder because there's no justifying this. And this is something that we've known that right-wingers are capable of forever, but they lie to themselves. When Bush lied us into a war that killed 1 million Iraqis, when 4,000 Americans came home dead and thousands more came home incapacitated, ruined for lives, brain disconnected from their bodies, loss of sight, loss of limbs, all these horrific things, the trillions of dollars this war has cost us in this economy. All these things, they blithely went along with it because Fox News said it was good, so we're going to say it's good. But now you're faced with the situation where it's right in your own backyard and you're seeing the impact on your neighbors and friends. I don't care what avowed racist you can name. Most white folks have a black friend or two that they genuinely love, if not a son or daughter-in-law. So it's not as if they hate all black folks, they just hate black people en masse because they're invested in white supremacy. But when you throw something like this in front of them, all that talk about Snyder becoming a presidential candidate, that's gone. All this talk about Snyder becoming a well-remembered and feted Michigan governor, that's gone. It's going to take all Snyder can do to hang on to this office for the next 2 years until such time as his term is up, because there's a good chance he's going to be removed. And with Washington now being involved in this, and we're starting to get the U.S. attorney paying attention to this, and you're starting to see predominant politicians out of Washington on both sides of the aisle saying, we got a problem in Flint, they ain't going to ride with Snyder. Snyder, count the days, he's done.
Yeah.
But I won't be satisfied until we pull back the curtain and don't look at the Flint water fiasco in isolation. Look at what enabled it to happen. And that's this emergency manager law, which essentially says, look, po Negroes,
The protocol.
you can't participate in democracy because we say so. The arbitrary reason we use is fiscal, but we could come up with whatever we want to. So this is a chapter that's going to go down in infamy, just like Jim Crow, just like the poll taxes, just like the literacy test they used to give poor blacks in the South before they could vote. This is analogous to that. And this ain't Mississippi. This ain't Georgia. This ain't 1940. This ain't 1950, early 60s. This is 2013, 14, 15, 16 in Michigan. If it can happen here, bro, it can happen anywhere.
Right. Now, if a terrorist had to come over and done something like that.
Yeah, oh, man.
Of course.
They'd hunt him down.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, not only would you hunt them down, you'd have people walking around with their hair on fire.
Right.
Yeah.
ISIS is poisoning water.
Right.
Yeah.
You'd have stickers on minivans and people going buck wild about,
Yeah.
protect us, protect us.
Yeah.
But because it happens to us, look, man, we've talked many times on this show, we ain't quite human to them.
Right.
Yeah.
So we don't have the same, we don't garner the same level of concern and respect en masse that white folks do for each other. Now, if they're your friend, if they're your relative, if they're your coworker and something happens to you, they'll cry and sob because they recognize your humanity.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.